It began with confusion, the kind that stirs when something doesn't quite make sense, when something is just off enough to catch your attention, but not enough to confront it right away. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video. In this case, the confusion took the shape of a 93-year-old man who walked too slowly through the front doors of a bustling supermarket on a chilly Wednesday morning. The manager, Matt, stood behind the front counter sipping black coffee and reviewing the shift schedule when he spotted the elderly figure shuffling toward him. His brow furrowed. Corporate had warned him that a new employee would be joining them this week, but Matt had expected someone who could keep up with the store's fast pace. Not this. The old man wore a pressed beige shirt tucked carefully into high-waisted slacks. His silver hair was combed neatly, his shoes polished. He carried a small brown bag and looked around as if stepping into a memory. His name was Charles. Matt greeted him politely, but inside, frustration stirred. Charles moved at his own rhythm, slow, deliberate, and far too gentle for the daily grind of supermarket work. He couldn't stock shelves quickly. His hands trembled slightly when bagging items. He made mistakes, not major ones, but enough to stand out. Still, Charles showed up each day with a smile and a quiet determination. Matt watched from a distance, arms folded, jaw set, and soon enough, patience ran out. The final straw came when Charles accidentally knocked over an entire wine rack, shattering several of the store's most expensive bottles. It was an honest mistake, but in Matt's eyes, it was the end. He fired Charles right there in the aisle, in front of customers, in front of his peers. The store went quiet. Nobody clapped, nobody cheered. Matt thought it was the right call. Business had no room for emotion. But the next morning, Charles returned, not to work, just to walk the aisles. He didn't buy anything. He didn't talk much. He simply wandered. Matt let it go at first. Customers came and went. Charles didn't disrupt anything. But then he came back again, and again. Every day that week, Charles arrived shortly after opening and left an hour later. No groceries, no questions, just quiet steps and lingering gazes at the shelves. Then something happened that Matt couldn't ignore. He was reviewing the store's late-night camera footage from homey a habit of his, checking on night routines and closing procedures when he saw movement. It was well past midnight, and the store should have been empty. But there, strolling calmly through the aisles, was Charles. He wasn't stealing. He wasn't confused. He had a small clipboard and pen, making quiet notes as he moved. He looked like he was doing inventory. Matt's heart pounded. How did he even get in? His first thought, Charles still had a copy of the store keys. Maybe he'd never turned them all in. Fueled by anger and disbelief, Matt jumped into his car and raced to the store. When he arrived, sure enough, Charles was still there walking as if nothing was wrong, as if he belonged. This time, Matt didn't yell. He calmly took the keys, issued a firm warning, and asked the old man to leave. But Charles came back the next night. And the night after that, Matt, growing more agitated with each incident, finally called the police. He explained everything, how the elderly man kept entering after hours, how he had been fired, how he should not have access. The officers understood and promised to respond quickly. When they arrived, Charles didn't resist. He simply smiled, handed over the keys again, and turned to Matt with a strange glint in his eye. "Wait until you find out who I am," he said calmly before stepping into the police car. Those words haunted Matt. Who was this man? Why did he keep coming back? And what exactly did he mean? Fueled by curiosity and a growing sense of unease, Matt drove to the police station that night. He requested to speak with Charles Jess to understand what was going on. The officers allowed it. They had found no crime in Charles's actions, just a man with keys and a calm demeanor. No charges would be filed. Inside the station, Matt found Charles seated in an interrogation room, smiling warmly, hands folded on the table. "Come here, young man," Charles said gently. Matt, confused but intrigued, sat across from him. "You're wondering what all this is about," Charles began. "Why an old man like me would keep returning to a place he was no longer welcome," Matt nodded cautiously. "I wasn't sent by corporate," Charles said, leaning in slightly. "I am corporate." Matt blinked. "I don't understand." Charles straightened his back. "I'm the founder, the original owner of the supermarket chain you work for." The room seemed to fall still. Matt stared, his brain struggling to process the words. "You founded the company?" Charles nodded. 60 years ago, one store, then 2, then 10, now hundreds. But the values I built this company on, respect, teamwork, compassion, those don't change with size. And lately, I've been hearing that one of our store managers has forgotten those values. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. I've received letters, emails, phone calls, complaints about how you treat people, how your employees dread coming to work. So I decided to see for myself. Matt's face drained of color. I disguised myself as a new hire, worked beside your team, felt their fear, heard their whispers, and now I understand. He took a breath. You didn't just run your store with efficiency, you ran it with cruelty. Matt's hands trembled. Sir, Charles held up a hand. I'm not here to punish you, not yet. I believe people can change, but you need to see the other side of your leadership. He stood slowly. Effective immediately. You're no longer the manager of your store. Matt's jaw dropped. But you're being reassigned. Floor employee, stocking, sweeping, listening. Matt couldn't speak. He felt humiliated, exposed. But he also felt something else, a quiet recognition, a truth he'd been avoiding. Charles continued, You'll work under Becky. She'll take over as store manager. Becky from the bakery? Matt whispered, stunned. Yes, Charles said with a soft smile. She's earned it. And with that, Charles turned and walked out of the room, leaving behind a man who, for the first time in years, felt truly small. The silence in the car on the way home was suffocating. Matt didn't turn on the radio, didn't touch his phone. He just drove, the city lights passing in a blur. He had never felt like this, before stripped of his authority, not by force, but by the quiet, undeniable weight of truth. He thought of Becky, soft-spoken, hard-working Becky from the bakery, who once asked to leave early for her daughter's dance recital. He had said no, said the schedule came first. He thought of Tim, the teenage boy he had snapped at for dropping milk. He thought of the old man in the scooter, the one he had, rushed out the store doors when he got stuck near the register. And now all of it made sense. The complaints, the judgment, the reason Charles had come to his store. Matt didn't sleep that night. He reported for duty the next morning wearing a plain polo shirt and no name tag. Becky stood near the entrance, clipboard in hand, and greeted him with a look of quiet uncertainty. Morning, he said, voice low. Morning, Matt. She didn't gloat. She didn't rub it in. She simply handed him a list. You'll start with dry goods, aisles 3 to 6, just stock and straighten. He nodded, and he got to work. The first week was difficult physically and emotionally. Matt had to take orders, move boxes, clean spills. He had to follow, not lead. But for once, he paid attention to the people around him, to how hard they worked, to how much they endured quietly. He kept his head down, but his ears open. There were no shortcuts now. One morning, as he was restocking cans of soup, a voice startled him. You missed a row. It was Becky. Instead of getting defensive, Matt simply turned back and fixed it. Thank you, he said. She raised an eyebrow and walked away. That was new. Weeks passed. Slowly, something changed. He stopped complaining. He started helping. He laughed with Tim in the break room. He asked Becky how her daughter was doing. And one day, when an elderly customer struggled with a shopping cart outside, Matt jogged out without being told. He offered a hand. No camera, no reward, just instinct. By the end of the month, Charles returned. He entered the store unannounced, walking the aisles like any other shopper. He smiled at Becky, who now wore a manager's badge. They exchanged greetings, and then he asked a quiet question. How's Matt doing? Becky didn't hesitate. He's changing, she said. Actually trying. Charles wandered the store until he spotted Matt stacking cereal boxes. The former manager straightened up as the old man approached. Sir. Still here, I see. Yes, sir. Charles gave a thoughtful nod. You've been working hard. I've been learning, Matt said. There was a pause. Then Charles placed a hand on his shoulder. I believe you. Then he left. No promises, no promotions, just quiet approval. Over the next few months, Matt kept working. He didn't ask for recognition. He didn't rush the process. And in time, something remarkable happened. He began to feel human again. Not just a boss, but part of a team. The store changed too. Laughter returned to the break room. People stayed after shifts to help each other. Customers lingered a little longer, smiling at familiar faces. And finally, after a full year, Charles returned one last time. He met with Becky first. They shared coffee in her office. She handed him a folder with report sales, feedback, internal notes. Charles flipped through them, nodding slowly. Then he turned to her. And Matt? Becky smiled. He's ready. Charles walked out onto the floor where Matt was helping a young employee set up a new end-cap display. "Good morning," Charles greeted. Matt turned, surprised but calm. "Hello, Mr. Charles." Charles extended his hand. "Welcome back, Manager Matt." Matt's eyes widened. "You mean—" "You've earned it," Charles said. "But this time, you'll share the role. Co-managers, you and Becky." Matt looked to Becky across the aisle. She nodded, a soft smile on her lips. "I'd be honored," he said. Charles smiled. Then it settled. As Charles left the store for the final time, he glanced back once and saw something that warmed his heart more than any report could. Matt helping a new employee load produce onto a shelf, sleeves rolled, smiling, working side by side. The store was no longer just a machine. It was a team. It was a family. Matt had been broken down not to be punished, but to be rebuilt. And now, with humility in his hands and wisdom in his heart, he was finally worthy of the title he had once taken for granted.